WrestleMania draws huge crowds, very popular sport. And inside the so-called squared circle, Shawn Michael has faced off with the legends of wrestling, such names as Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, and The Undertaker. And yet the man known as Mr. WrestleMania met his greatest match outside the ring. Take a look.
The Showstopper, the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania. These are just a few names given to WWE superstar Shawn Michaels, and he wore them proudly.
I just couldn't get enough of it.
In his climb to the top of pro wrestling, Shawn also became known as a troublemaker, and that got him fired from the WWE. Then he turned to drugs.
I was one of those good drug addicts. I suppose I hit it better.
Shawn was wrestling for his life, but that was about to change.
Well, welcome to the 700 Club, WrestleMania himself, Shawn Michael. Shawn, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
You were a troublemaker?
Well, I was going to, as I said, no, that's an understatement. That is a huge understatement. I was more than just a troublemaker.
Well, you got to be world champion. Why were you making trouble? Looks like you were sitting on top of the world.
Well, from a worldly standpoint, I was, and from a sheer professional standpoint, I was the WWE champion. On top, as they say, everything was going well professionally, but in my personal life, I was an angry young man, and to this day, I don't know why. I was raised a good boy, and.
What were you mad at?
Well, you know what? I think a lot of it has to do with I started wrestling when I was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I even knew who I was as a young man yet. And then all of a sudden I go into this line of work to where I can pretend to be whatever I want. And I just used that as an escape.
You wanted to be a wrestler at the time you were 12, didn't you? I mean, you wanted...
Yes, sir. Yes, I saw it for the first time when I was 12 years old. I just fell in love with it, and by the time I graduated high school, I hadn't grown out of it. And
were you wrestling in high school?
Well, in Texas, it's high school football. High school football, high school football all the way. Yeah, and but I always knew I wasn't going to go on and continue to play football. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And I bothered my parents and my dad enough to where he finally relented and allowed me to give it a try.
You know, I've known some wrestlers, and I had led one to the Lord in a very dramatic occasion. A lot of that showbiz, isn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, it is. It's still obviously a very physical line of work. I wake up every day, and I don't ever forget what I did for a living for 25 years. Very physical line of work. You're on the road a bunch. But yes, we are out there to entertain. It is, I like to tell people, it's controlled violence. Yeah. It's sort of like a gymnastics routine. If you fall off a balance beam, it's still going to hurt, and you get tossed around quite a bit.
Your body still aches. You've got aches and pains.
Yes, sir, from head to toe. But I do my best, take good care of myself. As long as I train on a regular basis. But, my knees are sore, my shoulders are sore, my back is sore. My back is fused together. I'm going to have to get both these knees replaced. I'll have to get this shoulder replaced. It goes about this high, and that's about it. And and I can't get, just for all the police officers out there, I can never get arrested again because this arm doesn't go back behind my back anymore. So if you cuff me, you have to cuff me in the front.
Well, let's hope that's okay. Well, you started taking drugs, though. Why drugs?
Well, you know what? First, in your mind, you rationalize it. Oh, for the pain and this, that, and the other. I look at it, idle hands. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Yeah. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I wasn't comfortable with myself, and so much of it was, me finding me. Mm. And that didn't happen until I came to the Lord. Believe it or not, it was me running from me for the longest time.
And the drugs were what, giving you an identity, or masking the?
It was an escape. It was me not having to deal with myself. Again, stone cold sober. You then have to deal with who you are, what you've become, and are you. How are you doing as a man? Yeah. And then eventually, after I got married, as a husband, and then I became a father, and I wanted to be good at those roles, and I could convince myself that I was, but truly I wasn't. And then one day it was a very quiet, serene moment with my son on the couch when I was half in the bag and he was 2 years old and he was crawling on me and I heard him say, "Daddy's tired." And I realized that day that he was now beginning to be able to see it, and it just tore me up. And I said I have to stop this. I can't live like this anymore.
Were you able to kick it fast, or it took you?
One day.
One day you
One
kicked?
day.
Really?
I mean, I tell everybody, and I've had people ask me, you know, gosh, how do you do it? And, you know, did you do the 12 steps? I did the one step. It was Jesus, and that was it. I drove the next day into the parking lot of Cornerstone Church, and I walked into the office, and I said, I'm looking for a Bible study. And I didn't know this. Years later, Pastor Matt told me that they all were in their offices and they heard Shawn Michaels was out there. And they thought it was some kind of WWE punked episode or something. You know, and I had cameras with me, and of course I'm in there searching for the Lord, by the way. And but a man stuck his head out of his office. He said, "You can come to my Bible study." I went to the Bible study that Wednesday night, and the guy asked me if I wanted to say the sinner's prayer, become a Christian. I said, "You know what, I do." And he led me in the sinner's prayer. I wept like a baby, and I've never looked back. And
it happened that fast. Instant.
Just like that. Wow. And again, that's why because people have always asked me, like, were you an addict? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't think so, because it wasn't tough. I didn't go through anything. I was just running. I don't think I wanted to face who I was, and again, then knowing who I was in Christ just seemed to make all the difference. I believe in my simple mind, it was getting the affirmation that I always looked for.
Well, you went back, you were a sinner, wrestling, taking drugs, all of a sudden you kicked the stuff. Were you out of wrestling for a while?
I was. I was off for 4 years. I was told in 1998, I got a back injury, had my back fused together, and they told me I'd never wrestle again. And I would go back here and there, bits and pieces for the WWE, but I was still under contract, but I wasn't actively wrestling because we didn't figure I'd ever wrestle again. And then about 6 months before I got saved, I got called to go to the office, and Vince said, "We're thinking about bringing you back." And I said, "Look, I think God's trying to tell me something. I can't miss this." I said, "So I can't come back right now. I appreciate the offer, but I've got to find out what's going on here." Right. And so then I get saved, and I call him on the phone. "Oh, my goodness, I know what it is. It was Jesus. I'm saved. If you need me, I'm here for you." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, that moment's passed." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then a couple months after that, he calls me. They bring me back, and long story short, I'm reading the book of Joshua, and I'm first chapter, the words, "Be strong and courageous, for I'm with you," are just jumping off the page at me. And I ran off the plane, and I went and called Vince, and I said, "I can wrestle again." I said, "I know I can do this." And I went back in 2002 for one more match, and I wrestled for 8 years.
You did?
Yeah, I wrestled for another. I went back for just one more match.
Your back didn't hurt? I mean, it didn't.
No, I felt like $1 million.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah.
Did you get another championship? Did you get another belt?
I did. I went back and I won the championship. My last match in 2010 was the main event at WrestleMania against The Undertaker in front of 80,000 people. I left the wrestling business on top, on the biggest stage of them all. And that's the thing. Everybody like, how are you the only guy that says he's going to retire, stays retired? Because I'm the epitome of the second chance. I got another chance.
How did your wife handle all this?
At the beginning, when I first met her, she said, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I said, "I was raised Catholic. Of course I do." Not long into our marriage, she realized, like, he may know who the guy is, but he doesn't know him.
Yeah, right.
She, she was wonderful. She prayed for me, never pushed. Let it come naturally. She very, gently would give me books. The best book ever that I read before I was saved was Dr. James Dobson's Straight Talk to Men, and I read that book, and it was just. I mean, he gave me the most respectful tongue lashing that I've ever taken as a grown man. It was pointed, but it was all true, and it just hit me. And so that's the most she ever did. And then from that point on, and her prayer was just just get him straight. You know, it wasn't to be saved. It wasn't to come to the Lord. It wasn't to become this, you know, crazed Bible thumper that I am now. But
she's an amazing woman. She put up with all that stuff.
Yeah, well, and I have to tell you, Pat, and I've put up with her.
Oh, you put up with her.
I'm just kidding.
Sure.
And
If
just
she's
you know,
listening,
I'm
sure
kidding. I kid. No, she was wonderful. But what the best thing she did for me is she lived hers out in front of me. And the thing is, you know, from that time, I mean, as you know, in a marriage, we've gone up through some ups and downs. But I'm telling you, our marriage and our family would not be the wonderful unit that it is if it wasn't for the Lord. Honestly.
Shawn, it's great to have you with us. I hope your book is successful. It's called Wrestling for My Life. And there's Shawn Michael, and there's the book, and it's available where books are sold. What an incredible story.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
May God bless you. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Shawn Michael, ladies and gentlemen, former WWE champion, world champion wrestler. I wrestled in high school, and I wrestled in college. This other stuff ain't what I'm familiar with. It's another whole thing. Okay.